For our Module 13 review, you can use a calculator, but you still have to write down the problem to show me what you put in your calculator. So if you bring this back to me by the end of the week, it is worth 8 points, 1 point per problem. So the first one wants us to find the volume. So we do that by length times width times height. So the length is 22. So this is what I'd be writing on my paper, 22. The width is 9 times 9. The height is 12. So 22 times 9 times 12 will give us that volume. We label it centimeters cubed. So this is what you're writing on your paper. You can use the calculator to solve that problem. Okay, our next one has the volume. It gives us the volume. We're working backwards. We're going to set up what we know. So the volume is 1248, and that equals the length. So we don't know the length, but we're going to times that by the width of 8 and the height of 13. So now we're going to multiply what we know. So we can do 8 times 13. So you can use your calculator to answer that. So now we have L times whatever 8 times 13 is. And so you're bringing that down. So whatever this is, 8 times 13, we're trying to get L by itself. So the opposite is going to be to divide by this number. And if I do that to this side, I have to do that to this side. So I'm really taking 1,248, and we're going to divide that by 8 times 13 to find that missing piece. So instead of timesing, we don't know it, we have to do the opposite, which is divide. So 8 times 13, and then we'll divide that into 1,248. Okay, our next one tells us that a rectangular prism has a volume of 72 cubic inches. So the whole entire thing can fit 72 inch cubes inside of it. The height is 4. So if we have this prism here, the height of this is 4. We are looking for the length and the width. So again, we're going to take 72 and we're going to divide that by 4, or you can just do 72 divided by 4, and you can use your calculator to find that. And that's going to give you the base. That's all the L and W together. So you need to think of two things so what could the length be and what can the width be that when we multiply them together equal the base 72 divided by 4. So the length times the width times 4 for the height should equal 72. So you're looking for the two missing pieces this time, and there's a couple options that it could be. Okay, find out how many inch cubes fit inside of here. So the length is 6.2. So 6.2. The width is 3.5. So we're going to multiply that by 3.5. And the height is 2.25. So length times width times height. This is what you need to write on your paper. And then you can go ahead and solve that, and our answer is going to be inches cubed. So we're seeing how many cubes fit inside of that. So that one's pretty straightforward, length times width times height. Hey, this time we're going to find the volume, but we are using fractional amounts. So we have 7 1/3, so we're just going to write out the problem, times 8, times 10 1/2. So we need to make these improper. So we have 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 is 22 over 3, 8 over 1, times 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 is 21 over 2. So in our calculator, we're going to do 22 times 8 times 21 to find the numerator. And the denominator we can probably just do 3 times 1 is 3 times 2 is 6. So whatever this numerator is, it's going to be big because we're doing 22 times 8 times 21. Because that big number is on top, we have that improper fraction. So we want to take this number and divide it by 6 to find our final answer, feet cubed. So we have that improper fraction, big number, the numerator is bigger. So we're seeing how many 6's go in there. So numerator divided by 6 to give us that answer. Okay, our next problem, we have a length of 3/4. So we're writing this out times a width of 1/4 and a height of 1/4. So even though I can use a calculator, I'm still setting up my problem. And I think we can do the numerator in our heads. 3 times 1 is 3, times 1 is 3. And then if you'd like to use a calculator, remember it's not 4, 8, 12. 4 times 4 times 4 is going to be 3 and something feet cubed. Now this time we're not going to divide because we just have a regular fraction. The numerator is little, the denominator is bigger, we just leave it like that. Where this one, we had a big number on top we had to divide to simplify it. This one is already done. So the little numbers on the top, find your denominator, 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, and then we have some story problems, and you're going to have to be problem solving. So they're not just length times width times height. We're going to use that formula to then problem solve. So a shipping company has crates that are 4 feet by 6 feet by 3 feet. So this one is 4 by 6 by 3. So we're going to find the volume of that. So 4 times 6 times 3. And then we have these smaller boxes that are 1/2 by 1/3 by 1/4. So length times width times height. So this is going to be a little tiny piece here. So we're going to find this one here. And we're trying to see how many of these fit into here. So we want to take this big one and divide it by how many little ones and see how many fit in there. So we're taking this one, which is, I believe, 72. And we're going to divide that by, so I guess I'll just do this, 6, 24. And we're dividing that by 1/24. So I can do 72 divided by 1, but I cannot do 1 divided by 24 nicely. So I want to use the opposite, change that into a multiply problem. So keep the first one, change it into a multiply and do the opposite. We're going to multiply there, and that's going to tell us that answer. So we're seeing how many of the little ones fit into the big one. So we're taking this and dividing it into how many boxes can fit. And if we can't divide nicely, we want to use the opposite and multiply that. We've got to use that reciprocal. Okay, our next one, our last one, yes, tells us that the base of a rectangular prism is 4 feet by 3 feet. So we know the base is 4 by 3, and it has a height of 2. It is then filled with cubes that have edges that are 1/4 foot. How many cubes can fit inside the prism? So again, we're just seeing how many little ones fit inside the big one. We're doing the same thing here. So we have our large one is 4 by 3 by 2. And we're going to find that volume, length times width times height. And then we have these ones that are 1/4 of a foot in every direction. They're cubes. So the smaller one is 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4. So there's 1. 4 times 4 is 16. Times by 4 is 64. So we need to take our larger rectangular prism and we need to divide that by 1/64. We're seeing how many 1/64 fit inside of here. And this is a pretty little tiny piece. So a lot of these are going to fit inside of there. We should have a pretty big number when we're done. But I know this number can be divided by 1, right? We're going to set it up. Whatever that was, there's 12, 24. So we're doing 24. We're seeing how many little 1/64ths can fit inside of here. And we can't do 1 divided by 64 nicely, so we want to multiply by the opposite. So 24 over 1, flip it. That's right. We're seeing how many, this only takes up 1/64th of it. So every time you have 1 cube or 1 foot, there's actually 64 of these little cubes that can fit inside of there. So all we're doing is finding the volume of the big one, finding the volume of the little one, and then dividing to see how many of the little ones fit into the big one. So go ahead and finish up that. So I should be able to see your problems written down, but you could use a calculator. If you finish those, bring them to class and I'll get you some points.